This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a predetermined narrative, and I've seen Rosaline, a new romantic comedy from director Maine based on Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which I assume I don't need to explain here. This story, however, focuses on Rosaline, who was only mentioned in the original play as a scorned lover of Romeo, but is given a much larger role here. When she misses meeting Romeo at a masquerade ball due to her father setting her up with a potential suitor, he becomes the one to ignore her, having now met Juliet, who, as it just so happens, turns out to be Rosaline's cousin. Naturally, Rosaline is taken aback by these revelations and sets out to do whatever she can to separate the two. Though along the way, she finds herself questioning if what she feels for Romeo is true love, and if not, then if it could be found elsewhere, perhaps in the aforementioned suitor who is now getting a suspicious amount of screen time. Going into this movie, I was expecting the story to almost be something like existing in the background of the established play, maybe with Rosaline accidentally setting those events into motion, but instead it's more of a reimagining that puts a different, more contemporary spin on all of that stuff. It leans in hard on the contemporary aspect, actually, especially through dialogue, mannerisms, and a few anachronistic concepts. It almost makes enough of a case that you could take away the medieval setting entirely and put everybody right into modern times. That said, it doesn't stray too far away from the original story, with many of the most familiar plot points either mentioned in brief or outright retold, with only enough difference that the film can, and eventually does, claim that these events will be written and rewritten over the ensuing years. Personally, my problem here is that the difference ends up falling back on familiar rom-com formulas, especially in Rosalind's own character subplot, the ending of which can be seen coming from a mile away. In fact, all of the characters have pretty simplified personalities and arcs, with little, if any, substantial development or change between start and finish. It's easy to digest, but hardly offers any real surprises. Overall, it pulls off the central idea of putting a modern spin on a classic story, but it's more in the smaller details and the lack of polish that things really lose their appeal. There also isn't much appeal in the technical aspects of the film, at least not in a truly stylistic sense. There's more time put into cinematography and showing off the world, which is admittedly pretty to look at, and any real locations are also blended in well with the set pieces. Still, there isn't really any camera work that helps to tell the story through its visuals. Editing is also pretty much a practical affair, just moving the story along with no trouble at all. If there's anything more distinctly creative at play, it's the music choices, blending modern pop songs with medieval-like instrumentation, though even so, it's pretty limited in this regard. The whole production is pretty much a case of missed potential, since it feels to me as if the filmmakers could have used these visual elements in a comedic way, maybe to contrast the fantasy of Romeo and Juliet's runaway romance with Rosalind's more grounded, perhaps cynical point of view. That in itself is the point of the movie, but it's something that's told rather than shown, and even then it's not exactly told in a compelling manner. Still, I would say that it does have just enough heart and mind that its fresh take on an old classic isn't at all uninteresting. It just has room for improvement. Rosaline, Karen, Maine, 2022. 3 stars. I suppose it's worth seeing if you're into this sort of thing. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. This is the third sort of movie I've seen this year that's like a modern take on an older book. I wonder if a bunch of people had lunch one day and decided to start a trend or something.